a nice flat thin coating just by heating it up a little bit more and move the speed that you move it and the pressure that you apply, rather than as opposed to laying down, you know, like a rod thickness of color that's going to be really thick and hard to move in. We're going to warm this up and get this heated up pretty well. And then the angle that I apply these stripes, I'm going to have this color rod, you know, angling upward away from the clear, just to let, you know, kind of paint on a flat stripe. So I'm going to kind of push.
If you were not putting that on when we had a pull point at either end, would we just put our blowpipe on one end and close the other
Yeah, there's
end?
nothing different about this. You know, the blowpipe would be here, this end would be closed, and then you would lay these stripes on and then attach your handle.
Would you pretty much go end to end or shoulder to shoulder?
Shoulder to shoulder. You want to, you know, start and stop, you know. You don't want to go too far down in the handle. You just don't need color there because you're going to pull that down anyways, and it'll...
Could you do the really fine powder frit, roll it in there? That kind of looks like a painted on look sometimes.
Yes, yeah, you could roll, if you have a frit tray, you know, you could roll this in a little layer of frit and melt it in and put another layer on. And
So the
you know,
powder gets real fine.
well, I don't really use the powder too much because it's kind of, you know,
Messy.
with the health hazard and with the dust. I like that 38 size frit. Kind of works good for a lot of stuff. You can use powder, and you make sure your ventilation's good. And the other thing about the powder is it kind of clumps up.
You have a lot of moisture, I bet.
Well, when it goes onto the hot glass, it has more of a tendency to clump up, and I don't know. I just don't. Yeah, I don't mess with the powder all that much. So you can see they're, you know, laying these on pretty flat as opposed to, you know, laying down a rod thickness, which would be more than you need and a lot of extra work to get it melted in. So pretty hot, and have that angled upward, swipe it down, and go 4, and then I'm going to go next to that one. To this one, and you can make these hearts, you know, with the inside frit style or outside frit, you know, any of those coloring methods. And if you kind of do this quick, then the residual heat's going to be there, and it's going to swipe on a little bit easier. Because the colder the base glass is, the more it's going to want to grab, more color it's going to want to grab off the end of the rod. So you just want a clean layer.
I'd have done snapped that point.
Say that again.
That's what I said, dude.
The colder the tube is when you swipe the color on, the more it's going to grab the color from this rod. So if it's a little bit hotter, you always want this, you know, really hot, molten when you're swiping it on. You'll be able to get a thinner layer if the base is, you know, up to temperature. So you're striping those on, you know, you might have got some heat up into the handle here, so you want to, you know, check before you grab right onto it. I'll go ahead and, you know, use this heart to show you guys a couple,
So you're just melting it in now?
yeah, so I'm keeping the heat to this side of the point handle. And if you work on points, you know, since you have a hollow handle, you need to pay more attention to, it's going to heat up and melt a lot faster than if you had a rod there. You know, you could melt this handle off and attach a punny. This is just going to be faster. We're going to end up doing that anyway, but and the ruby's a good one to, you know, ruby or cobalt, something transparent, or something that goes transparent is nice to start with, because then you can see that I've got all the creases melted out. So that's basically, you know, that's a basic demo of how to, you know, color a tube with the stripe and swipe.
Is that patented?
No. Makes it easier to remember, yeah.
Stripe and swipe.
And this is a little thick on this end, so I'm gonna just up it out a little bit. I know somebody who calls it something else, but I can't say what it's called.
You've already heard things here you didn't think you would. You can say whatever you want.
Not worth repeating. Trust me. All right, so that just gave us you know, we have a small section of red tubing now, and you can scale this up and, you know, go with a much larger diameter of tubing and lots of color, encase that, and you can pull that down and make a large section of tubing, you know, the same diameter. If you're really like want a bunch of red tube, that's one way to go about it.
Or you can buy it already red.
Or you can buy it already. You can buy furnace pole tubing. Here, there's, you know, back stacks and all that crazy stuff. But for a bead maker, this is good, and you're not stuck with a whole bunch of the same color. All right, so I'm going to show you guys a little like wrap and rake or a spin trail here.
What is that you're putting on now?
So I have some amber purple here,
Okay.
and I'm going to heat up the end, and I'm going to cock my hand all the way forward and tag it here and start turning and pull a trail of color onto here. And we want this to be good and hot, so these little lines stick, because they'll have a tendency to want to pop off. And I'm going to tag here and twist, and I'm going to pull, making sure that it lays down across the top. I'll show you what I mean here. And then I'm going to keep the amber purple in the flame and rock it back and forth to make sure that I feed the glass as it goes. So, cock it back actually, but not really. Yeah, okay. So, tag it here. And once we get going,
Oh, that's how Brian does those mommy vases. That method he does.
and you can get wild with it and trail it all over it, you know, itself, or you know, you can add another color. This is pretty, like, you know, it's like this is like some old school pipe maker stuff, you know, but it's not even really that. It's
So
you know, the furnace work, it's a spin trail.
Are your coils touching each other?
No.
Okay, there's space in between.
Yeah, and the more even, when you're adding color to the tube, the more even you do it, you know, if there's no lumps and whatever, then it's gonna be easier to work in. You can get freeform and trail it thinner and cross it over the top of itself, and you know, it's just gonna change the way it looks. You can, a lot of room for experimentation, but ideally, the more even, the better. So I'm gonna trail some
Paparazzi.
paparazzi, yeah, and I'm gonna,
Is that in between the amber purple? Or
yeah, that's what I'm going for. And again, I could just, you know, go wild and trail it over the top, but and this is one of those things where, you know, if you, just like anything, maybe you sit down and do a few one after another. It's gonna,
It never gets better for me.
oh,
I ain't lying.
We've seen you today. Stop it.
Yeah, he's a natural. Reminds me of Fred.
so these little thick spots, I'm gonna get off here so they don't make trouble when it started.
One troublemaker here's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's cold, then
It pops.
Yeah.
they don't, you know, so you want to get that base glass hot. That's okay, because that's going to be,
Throw away.
we're just going to, well, we're going to terminate it, and that's going to just be gone.
Thank goodness.
Most of the, you know, when you're working with tube and a lot of these things, you're just kind of, the middle section is what is going to be the bead, and in order to get the pattern to continue to the ends, you're always gonna, you know, end up removing material and then just have this nice colored section, and nobody will ever know. That's just the only way you can. If you try to make the pattern to the end and you don't sort of create a buffer that has a fair amount of glass that you're going to remove, it's going to be really hard to get the shape and the termination that you want. So having that, you know, you're going to get rid of like an eighth of an inch to a quarter of an inch of material there on either end by the time we're done. All right, so so that's the wrap, and then this is the rake. And so we're going to heat up a line, and then heat up this clear. I have some clear here, and then just kind of like we did before, stripe and swipe, but we're going to drag it over that color.
Looks like a feather.
Yeah.
Are you feathering? Are you pulling those
It's
coils?
kind. It's yeah. We're going for a